Well, for more on these so-called stingrays and what they're capable of, RT Web producer Andrew Blake joins us now. Andrew, nice to see you.
Oh, my pleasure.
So it seems like this has major implications for our cell phone privacy. We all use cell phones, so I mean, like, why don't people know more about it?
They really can't right now because stingrays and other of these devices are sensitive law enforcement gadgets. They really, law enforcement doesn't have to tell you everything about them. They don't have to tell you why they're using them. They don't have to tell you exactly what they're doing with them. And a lot of information about the actual specific technology itself isn't being released because the companies behind them, they don't want to go letting their trade secrets out for everyone else to go ahead and steal. So there really is just a very primitive amount of information that we actually know about them. But from what Christine just said, what we do know is enough to really scare people. And it's not just you know, your classic fear-mongering. It really does mean that the cops can drive around the city and aim this device wherever they want and track you down, or maybe not necessarily track someone down, but figure out who is in any geographical region for a span of several miles even. I think it goes up to like 7 kilometers some of them can reach. And they're accurate to some degree is by only like 2 meters. So they can actually pinpoint where you are in what room of your house just by driving around and waiting long enough to find you.
Wow. I mean, so significant ramifications for people's privacy, but you're saying that they could pinpoint anywhere. What if they're able to pinpoint a child molester or a kidnapper or a rapist or somebody like that?
I guess that would be good. Yes, we can go ahead and say that. But the thing about these technologies is that they get everyone gets lumped into here. So one way that you can use one of these stingrays is you go ahead and you send off its magical beams, and it tries to figure out who's in the region. And it can, if you're looking for one specific person, let's say the Mr. Child Molester, sure, you might be able to find out, yes, they're in this area, they're this far away, their cell phone is this strong, they last turned it on at this point, they're making calls, whatever. But you can also find out all of that information about everyone in that region. So potentially thousands upon thousands of users are having their locations.
And there's nothing stopping police from finding this information out about anybody. It's not limited to just suspects.
They're governed by their own internal policies. So each law enforcement agency can say, okay, this is how we're going to deal with it. But in the case of the FBI, what they say when they use them for federal cases is, all right, so we're going to collect all this other information that we don't necessarily need, but we'll delete it afterwards. So don't worry. But you're really, when you have to put all of your assurance into the FBI, it's usually not the wisest thing, especially when we're talking about like serious Fourth Amendment violations. And it's actually funny, if you go back and you go through the Bill of Rights, a lot of this stuff was obviously written at, you know, the birth of a nation when things were quite different. And when Americans decided that they should be free in their property and be protected against unlawful search and seizures, that was to keep the British from showing up and knocking down your door and just coming on in and sleeping in your bed. That's why we had the Fourth Amendment. And, you know, it seems a bit silly to, you know, relate this to what's happening now, but this really is cops being able to penetrate inside of your home, find out what's happening in there without you even knowing, though.
In other words, you're saying that this device allows police to bypass the limitations set in the Fourth Amendment?
Yeah, I'm saying that. I mean, I'm no constitutional expert. I'm no Barry Obama or anything, but it looks that way. It does, doesn't it? I mean, they can pretty much go and search for you, and if they have probable cause, a judge can sign off on a court order and say, yeah, go ahead, use this device and try to find that person. But in the process, they can go ahead and find everyone else in the region. And one of the reasons it's causing this is there isn't enough legislation right now that shows how to handle these technologies, and one big reason is we don't know specifically how these technologies work and specifically how many times they're being used. You know, the FBI and local law enforcement agencies across the country are staying relatively mum about how they use these things because, like I said, they don't want to let their secrets out there. So I know the Electronic Frontier Foundation and Epic, both of them have been pursuing the FBI to come forth and say, look, here's 25,000 pages on what we do with these. Have fun, go read them and take a look. But so far, what we have found out is just through a handful of cases where we've been able to see the court papers and know that these were being used. And in the case of a man in California, the judge even said, I signed off on this thinking that they were going to get information from the phone provider, the phone carrier, and instead the cops just took matters into their own hands. The judge said, go ahead, you will find out that information from the phone carrier, and they went, okay, we got a way to do this, and in the process managed to collect intelligence about everyone in that region. And sure, they say that they've deleted it, but there's really no way of knowing for sure, especially when we have such massive data retention across the board for Americans everywhere. I mean, in an age where the NSA is having to go to court to fight for the right to continue to eavesdrop on Americans without warrants, it should really be concerned.
All right. So we know that the risks of this new technology. Surely the government is using it for some reason. Can you talk about the justification of implementing these kinds of devices?
One reason this was really brought up in the mainstream media earlier this week was the Wall Street Journal actually did a story about a guy that they were trying to bust in California for cheating on his taxes. They believe that he made a few $1 million off of filing bogus tax returns. So they found out what device he was using to connect his computer to a cell network, and they drove around and they tried to find his location using one of these. That's how they got him, and now he's in jail in federal custody for cheating on his taxes. But in the meantime, everyone else, God knows where, has had their intelligence picked up and collected.
Wow, Andrew. Unfortunately, would love to keep this conversation going. We are out of time. Really appreciate you weighing in on this latest technology that we should all know about. That was RT web producer Andrew Blake. Check out his stories on our website, rt.com/USA.
Thanks, Liz.